Hi everyone, we're excited to bring back our Vivaldi podcast. We've got overwhelming requests to bring back our engaging speakers. This is a podcast where innovators, marketers, and thought leaders talk about how brands can orchestrate cross-dimensional systems in order to create consumer value. Vivaldi is a global strategy firm based here in New York City, specializing in brand strategy, innovation, and marketing, and helping businesses grow and reinvent themselves through services like business model innovation, and customer experience design. Our former podcast name, The Business of Platforms, doesn't quite match our current perspective anymore on brands. Brands aren't just platforms anymore, so now we're called A Moment in Systems, which reflects our evolved perspective, and we'll explain why. We'll dive into our article a little bit on interaction field thinking and how to build your own operating system as a brand. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Erich Joachimsthaler, founder and CEO of Vivaldi Group, with over 25 years of experience in orchestrating these opportunities in growth and innovation for brands including Lego, Coca-Cola, Pfizer, Disney, and many, many, many more. Hi, Erich.
Hi,
Welcome.
Thank you for reminding me of my age. 25 years.
Over 25 years of experience. So before we dive into system and system thinking, let's revisit platforms for a second. Why doesn't that work anymore? How do we move from pipeline to platform, now to system? And how do platforms and systems differentiate?
Well, platforms emerged in the late 90s with Google. That became one of the platforms. Then Apple with App Store, which is a platform between developers on one side and users like you and me that use an iPhone on the other side. Over the years, platforms developed as an alternative business model to what we call pipelines. A pipeline is when you build a product and you sell it to the consumer. That's a pipeline business. Typically, a platform is when you don't necessarily have a product in some ways, but you still create an exchange. An example is Airbnb. Airbnb does not own necessarily an apartment or a house, but it creates an exchange between a consumer or a traveler on one side, and on the other side, an owner of a spare flat here in New York City, for example. And that exchange becomes a platform. And then over time, that evolved into what's called an ecosystem, which is another form of a platform where multiple partners and participants and actors come together in one system, so to speak.
Okay, so it sounds like we moved from one-sided platforms to double-sided platforms to now multifaceted.
That's right.
Systems.
Yeah. Then I call this the interaction field.
Exactly.
The ecosystem really is a term where a set of collaborators collaborate in solving a problem for a customer, let's say. Siemens, as one example, has an ecosystem in healthcare. They collaborate with Google. They collaborate with other members of the healthcare community in order to deliver technology to, let's say, hospitals. That's what's called an ecosystem. And in the action field is something where that I determined in my book in 2020 is where you solving for challenges, needs, jobs to be done, sometimes called, of consumers or society that cannot be as easily solved with other models. And an example would be, I used in my book at that time, is John Deere. If you want to solve the problems of farmers, which means making farms profitable, if you want to solve that, and if you want to solve also healthy food delivery, the food system for Americans, for people around the world. If you want to solve for that, you need to increase the productivity per hectare of the agricultural field. If you want to increase the productivity per hectare, you can't just lumber with a John Deere down that field and maybe cut or cut the field in a more precise way. You need a lot more. You need a set of collaborators that share the interactions, the data, the analytics of that field. The John Deere needs to sense the field maybe with the tractors or with drones, but the data that come from that need to be shared with crop manufacturers, need to be shared with the pesticides providers, and needs to be shared with agricultural universities who do research on the field. And if you can orchestrate an interaction field where there is a shared exchange of the value, namely the data and analytics, then you actually increase the productivity of the field by significant amounts. That's an interaction field.
Okay. It's interesting to know where the interaction field name comes from actual agricultural fields.
Yeah.
So now understanding what an interaction field is, how can current brands operationalize this system? So in our article, we went into episodes and moments in consumers' lives, which are the new atomic unit of demand. We also talked about the difference between demand mapping and how it's moving to demand forming. So brands now have the power to map demand that already exists or create new demand.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate on how moments are this new unit of demand?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at when the example of platforms became valuable because Airbnb learns from every time you go on the website of Airbnb, and they learn from you what you're looking for, and they can use that information to help owners of an apartment to set particular prices. They basically learn supply and demand on the basis of the interactions or the transaction that takes place on the platform. Just like Uber, as another example, is another platform, riders on one side, riders like you and me, and drivers on the other side. And Uber learns from where demand takes place and through the requests on your mobile phone. I am on the Upper West Side. I need to go to the Lower East Side, let's say. So that was the world of platforms and how value is created through these interactions. These interactions create value because they create network effects. They make Airbnb more valuable because Airbnb knows what you want through this number of interactions and can then charge a particular price to those who travel. When you move today and now 2025, we are now in a different world. The value does not reside merely in the interactions. The value and the transaction, what you learn from that, the value is what you learn in an episode or in the moment. And I think that shift is operationalizing value creation or this interaction field in a totally new way. And that means,
Perfect. So it sounds like brands are now in the strategic position to use these interaction fields and dive deeper into actual moments in consumers' lives. And we also talked about how this applies across brand and industry. So for Lego, for example, you talked about a real episode could be like a rainy day where a family builds Lego, and a single moment in that episode is your son happily showing you the finished Lego castle or something. So these moments used to be difficult to capture for brands because like Lego wouldn't know if a family likes to build Lego on a rainy day, or Starbucks at an airport wouldn't know how long of a trip you had, how exhausted you are, what's the regular order that you want. Like, do you need like a smoother interaction with the barista as usual? They wouldn't know that. So you introduced the interaction field book in 2020, but this was before the wave current generative and agentic AI. So what AI now provides is this like behavioral infrastructure you call to make it operational. So could you elaborate on how, if you apply AI to an interaction field, how does it make it more intelligent, and where's the value for brands to do that?
I mean, there are now many examples that emerge. You mentioned Lego. If you play Lego on a Sunday afternoon, most often you are interacting also with your mobile phone. You get instructions from the mobile phone to solve certain parts of a Lego piece. You maybe look up some things. You share that information. All of these, and your interaction on the mobile phone can be actually captured. It happens to be Lego has a system called Lego Ideas, where you can create certain solutions. Let's say, or Lego you play using involving also online. So Lego can detect based on those moments, that the moments when you have time with your son or your daughter to play and have some play with Lego. You notice that it is those times when you visit a particular site. It's those times when you post on Lego Ideas your creation of your son. You get all this information centered around a particular time, oftentimes you can detect locations. In the case of Uber, you can actually use that in order to engage in a much more meaningful way with consumers, sense where demand is. This is what we call another example. Here's an example that I find extremely interesting. Elf Beauty is a company that has generated a $5 billion business. 1 billion of those 5 billion, they generated in the most interesting way. And that is, the typical approach would be find consumers that need Elf Beauty products, segment those consumers, those who are more likely to buy, and then target them with an Instagram ad or a Facebook ad or otherwise an email campaign, because those have the highest likelihood of purchase. Elf Beauty did literally almost just the opposite. Elf Beauty did not run an ad on any one of the platforms or social networks. Instead, Elf put out content, let's call it, that we call memes or memes, that creators and influencers picked up about skincare, things about skincare. And they targeted particularly those people who never take care of their skin. So not those who are more likely to buy, those who already have an interest, but those who never care about skincare, never think much about it. You know, what is the impact? Let's see an example. What is the impact of sustained sun exposure on the aging of your skin? As one example, that became that meme, that content was multiplied millions, 400 million times in a few days by creators, but not by ELF, but by independent people like you and I on social networks, and says there is really something about aging or the aging process that you do, that you affect your skin by having sun exposure. That messaging, because it wasn't an ad. Hey, use this skin care product if you don't want to age. That example, the typical example. And by approaching that in an engaging, non-advertising way, they engaged millions and millions and hundreds of millions. I think it was at the order of 1 billion revenue sales from consumers who normally don't take care of skincare. And I think that's the power. What has happened here? What has happened here is through the engagement that these people had, the people had on social media, ELF was sensing exactly what people's interests are. Is it about sun exposure? Is it about drinking too much alcohol, or over dehydration because of the long last night out, and so forth? They were sensing the demand in some ways, the need states we would call technically. That sensing, based on that sensing, and based on all the other information, they had what we call they had a reasoning AI, which is a agentic AI that enables to say, given what we learned from those signals, from that sensing of what that person responded to on social and what else we know about that person, we provide a particular offering. So it's a high personalization. So someone who is concerned about aging obviously got a different offer than somebody that does, let's say, had a great night out with some alcohol, let's say. And then that level, that reasoning led to a particular agent that then actually did the acting and provided a particular offer. And ELF Beauty learned from presenting the particular offer also what response they got. And that is called learning. So what is sort of interesting is, in this world of interaction fields, it's not just the interaction itself. It's the episode and moment in which those interactions take place. Learning from that, sensing that through technology, reasoning, using AI, reasoning, what does that mean, that those signals, and then based on that, using an AI to decide on what is the appropriate best action to respond to that particular those signals, and then learning from that. We call this the SRAL loop. That makes the moments, the episodes intelligent. That makes, if you look at this collectively, the entire interaction field an intelligent interaction field, AI mediated.
Amazing. So I think the logic behind what you talked about in former publications is we went from, this is the end of the customer journey. We don't have a pipeline anymore. We don't have stagnating touch points anymore for the consumer. We have activities, and these activities are behavioral moments and episodes that feed into a higher need state because they want a desired outcome. So in your ELF Beauty example, which is really interesting because those are the first, if this is their first touch point with beauty, ELF has a first mover advantage almost.
Yeah.
So this really proves that brands can not only map demand that's existing, but form it to and create it for people who see the content.
Yeah, I mean, in a very simple way is The normal approach would be, I need customers. How do I need customers? I need to make customers aware of the product. I need to make customers consider my product, and I need to get as quickly to a purchase. In a simplified way, that would be the normal linear journey. The more customers you make aware, the more we'll consider if your offer is a good one. If you get the right offer in front of them, consideration leads to purchase. That's the traditional approach. And you would say, what I need to do now is buy brand advertising that gets people to become aware of my product as widely as possible. Instagram, Facebook, wherever you meet your customers. And then you pray that consumers will also consider and then purchase ultimately. We call that in the old days, spray and pray. You spray all over, and hopefully they find you to the store or they find you online. Yeah. What's sort of unique about here is, and you just said that, Gina, there is no customer journey here. The consumer in this case, that the people that the 1 billion sales that Elf Beauty made is actually people who never considered in the first place. They never said they wanted this in the first place. They were targeting those people who never apply skincare products in the first place. And so, but they were able to sense the demand through the signal. They were able to serve the demand through this SRAL AI loop. And I think that's where the future lies, where we are no longer expressing what we want, and then all that the consumer needs to do, the marketer needs to do is identify our needs that we express. Instead, it's the opposite, is that AI enables, in this case, senses that reasons, acts, and learns. And through that AI loop, focusing on moments and episodes of people's lives, they actually understand what you want before you know that you want it.
Which is exactly what brands should be doing.
Exactly.
So if a brand understands now, or a C-suite understands the system, understands AI as connective tissue, understands, okay, I need to design signals and loops that learn from each other and make my brand more powerful in the next week. How do they actually, what are the core engines they need to design to orchestrate such a system and build it in real time? How does that work?
Yeah, there is a next step, and that's a very critical one. And this is really a major change. Until today, what we said is, in order to meet consumers, we need to create a brand with a particular visual identity, with a particular messaging to consumers. And the more we consistently tell people about the product in a consistent way, they will recognize us, they will consider us, and ultimately purchase us when they need it. What is now the case is it now works very differently. We call it the 3-engine system. And what that means is that you need to build let's call it a living operating system that is a technology infrastructure, AI powered, that basically does 3 things. Number one, it senses the demand. We call this the customer system. It is where demand takes place and when demand takes place. That's the first part, and then decides this through the SRAL rhythm how that demand can be addressed by you. So that is a technology, just like in the example of Elf as one example. Another example would be Uber. In Uber Uber, through your interaction with the app and where you're driving, what time of day you're driving, how often you drive in one direction versus another direction, Uber can actually sense whether the demand that you are that you have, the needs you have, is either an on-time arrival at the airport or just arriving to a meeting in the office, as one example. An ordinary driver in the old days, a taxi driver, would not know that. So technology allows you to capture this, what we call demand, or the customer system, the value where demand takes place. The second part that you need is what we call a brand system. The brand is no longer like, the brand helps you now to remember, oh, this is, the brand is now no longer, oh, you should buy Adidas over Nike because Adidas is more about technology than a Nike, than a Nike or Adidas, or vice versa. Nike is more a running shoe than Adidas, and therefore your choice should be this. That was the old days. The brand system now is one that says, who is helping me achieve my goals the best? If I want to become a marathon runner, I need a training routine. I need maybe a training coach to encourage me to keep running and training in time. At my age, I probably need some other assistance, maybe some high octane energy bars and things like that. So the brand now is no longer just a product. The brand is now a system that enables you to achieve that need state or the demand that was identified. It's usually not just a product, a better shoe that gets me to become a marathoner, let's say. The third part, and this is very important, it's a third engine that companies need to configure. We call this the value or value optimization engine. And that is, if you define the demand through a customer system, if you then have a portfolio of offering, a brand, that a system that capture that demand, then you also need to find a way of monetizing that. How do you create economic value from that? It's not just simply selling a shoe. There might be many other options to that. So there are three engines: customer, brand, and a value system. And that becomes an operating system for you that you can optimize using AI, basically.
I'm going to try and recap some of our crucial takeaways. So brands shouldn't only ask, what's our AI strategy today? Because AI isn't just this task automator.
Yeah.
But they should ask, how does it transform the entire system in which our brand creates value? And how can we create value across ecosystems? If we're a fitness brand, can we go into beauty if there's a moment that connects those two? So they talk about more the moment in time with one specific consumer, and look into how does AI analyze this moment with our signals. So the unit of value creation moves from segment to moment. So we aren't looking at static personas anymore. It's not like Marie, 29, likes to go shopping in her free time. It's like, what is the one moment she has right now? And how can we either meet that existing need or create a new need?
I mean, look, it's in a way, in the old days, which was just last year.
It's changing very fast.
Exactly. It's changing so fast in the world of AI. We would identify a segment, we would identify a persona, and we would target that persona. Target essentially means interrupting the persona in the moment of whatever they were doing. Today, as we know, attention spans of all of us go up. You target me on TV, I'm on my mobile phone. You target me on in my car with a radio ad, I'm not paying attention to the radio ad. I'm paying attention to a conversation I have with the passenger, let's say, while I was driving. So the traditional approach simply no works. Now you're not what we are saying is we are not targeting personas or segments or people. We are targeting the situation, the moment, the episode when something takes place. Because the demand, the needs take place are not connected to a person. They are connected to that moment. I like to drink alcohol. I like to drink tequila. When I drink in the afternoon at 4 or 5 o'clock, or at work actually, we have here a tequila bar, or in around the corner with my colleagues here from the office. I don't like to drink the very high end. I like to drink just a margarita, and I like to have it mixed because I have dinner afterwards, and I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be drunk at dinner. So I have something very light that is something refreshing. When I'm late in the evening for a nightcap, let's say, being around the house, I have some very expensive tequila. I sip it. I like a little a touch of that by myself or with friends, and I think that's also it means you're not targeting the person, you're targeting that moment, the moment 5 o'clock after work. That is where my needs, that is where demand takes place. Now you understand what kind of tequila drink I want. You cannot tell me that I am a high-end tequila drinker, because at 5 o'clock I drink actually the standard or the valued tequila, and that's just good enough for me. So I think that we need to stop thinking about segments in terms of consumers. And instead, in this new AI world, we need to think of segments as episodes, as moments. Those are where data is generated. Those where signals are generated. Those moments and episodes is where AI actually can become a very successful means to enable marketing and enable the business.
It's also important to say that because these moments are so dynamic and you not always are interacting with a brand, the whole brand ecosystem or interaction fields, because if every brand does this, there are like multiple interaction fields and technologies interacting, system actors interacting, consumers interacting, family members interacting, anything. It becomes so dynamic that if you are not doing this, you can't accelerate and multiply value as a brand in the future.
Yes, before in the old days, we call it in the pipeline world.
Yeah.
You created value by producing a product in the factory and selling it at a premium price. BMW can charge you a higher price than maybe another car or Mercedes, because they have a quality level for which they can extract a higher price and people are willing to pay. That used to be value. And today, the value lies in building that system and that collects data from multiple points. We call it an intelligent interaction field, because it becomes intelligent through deployment of AI. So AI as AI is not, do I make my targeting more efficient, or can I get more conversion from my advertising budget? AI actually, that might be an application of AI, but this is not the value. The value lies is when you can create an interaction field with the three engines, the customer, the brand, and the value engines, enable that interaction field in such a way that it is beneficial for your marketing for your engagement with consumers in particular moments and needs, over those of another competitor. It's that operating system, that living operating system, that AI-powered living operating system, that actually is your competitive advantage and value creation.
And that's why we're orchestrating a moment in systems instead of a business of platforms.
So well summarized. And that's why we are orchestrating these moments in systems. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Erich. Next week, we'll go more into detail on more brand case examples and talk about how current brands are actually implementing AI as this connective tissue. How are they designing the signals for AI to analyze, and how are they building and orchestrating their own interaction fields? How is this working, and how is that going to go into the future? Thank you so much.
Thank you.